Hi everyone, it's the Bitcoin SV bulldozer. How's life? So this video is going to be called Crypto is Everything Wrong with the World. Nice, beautiful, positive message, huh? But it's going to be kind of part one of two videos. And the second video is going to be more solution oriented. So I'll start off by saying that on a personal note, I would probably fit into the bracket of Gen Xer. I don't necessarily identify with that category or that generation, but that's the years that I was born in. And my grandparents, they owned a property in a wealthy suburb of Melbourne. Well, actually, I'd say these days it's a semi-wealthy suburb of Melbourne. Back then, that would be the 1940s, it was basically a pretty average suburb of Melbourne. So my grandfather was the breadwinner. It was a single income family, and he worked a fairly menial job, so his salary was below average, and he paid off the mortgage on the home, a decent home, within 3 years. He paid it off completely. Now, going by today's property prices, I'm guessing that that property would fetch at least 2 million Australian dollars. And the average Australian income, I would gather, just for simplicity's sake, would be around about 100,000 Australian dollars. Now, just so you're aware, Australia is brutally expensive now. So I'd say that would be roughly the average salary. If we take that $2 million and we multiply it by 2 for the mortgage and the interest that's associated with that mortgage, I'm estimating, it's not a strict science that I'm working on here, but that would be $4 million of repayments. So on an average salary of 100K, let's take out all expenses, living costs, and we'll say possibly, generously, we're left with 25K for 1 year, right? So that's 25K going towards $4 million of repayments. So that's, what is that? 4 times 40. That's 160 years. On an average salary in Australia, it would take you 160 years to pay off that property. And I reckon that's conservative. Now, obviously, a bank's not going to spot you for that loan, are they? They're not going to spot you for that mortgage. So what we get here is that a person on an average salary gets priced out of that market for that particular property. So we're talking about what once was an average house in an average suburb of Melbourne that the average person can no longer afford. In other words, it's no longer an average house. So the reason I'm bringing this up is to qualify what I'm about to say and just to express my sympathy for the current generations, the millennials, the Gen Ys, the Gen Zs, even the Gen Xers. We haven't come through completely unscathed from the massive inflation that's occurred over the decades. And I would argue that with the scam that was perpetrated over 2020 to 2023, we are currently in hyperinflation. We're at the bottom of the hyperinflationary curve. And I don't think people are realising what's going on. But this is hyperinflation. It's just not rampant hyperinflation, right? It's not Venezuelan hyperinflation or Weimar Republic hyperinflation, right? But we are in hyperinflation. So the point of that is, what is a person to do to get ahead in this day and age, to actually be able to purchase that property and have that decent life, have a family, settle down, and all the wonderful things that we used to do that we used to take for granted, right? And the solution is to go to university for 4 or 5 years, rack up a massive debt, and get an average paying salary so that you can't afford any property and you'll be just living like a slave for the rest of your life, right? Wrong. The solution is crypto. So, you do realize, people, that a 2x or a 3x is not what once was considered a healthy investment. Even back when I was younger, 16% per annum was considered highly risky. But I think that in the crypto space, we just think that that's normal. It's not. It's a sign of what's happened. And I trace it all the way back to Nixon taking the United States off the gold standard and effectively making that the prerogative of every single country on the planet. It's the hypothecation issue, right? Now, everything in this world at the moment is hypothecated, and cryptos are what's the word I'm looking for? Epitome of this. So, as I've been saying over several of the videos that I've posted since I started here, basically crypto is a pile of stinking, smelly shit. And I'm sick of all of these shibboleths that I'm going to knock down right now. So crypto, this buy low, sell high, it's not finance. It's not democracy. It's not free markets. Pump and dump is not utility. Crypto is not a store of value. It's not digital gold. It's not HODL. It's bloody theft. That's what it is. It's theft obfuscated as something else, where the collective participates in stealing off one another. That's what you're doing. You're not actually doing anything useful. You're not doing anything positive for humanity. And that's a really interesting point here. So Bitcoin has actually turned 15 years old now, right? And what has it done for humanity? Has it actually uplifted humanity spiritually? Has it made things easier for us? Has it decreased the poverty in the world? You get where I'm going with this, right? If anything, it's done the opposite. It's engendered sick habits in the population, especially in the younger generations. And that's the reason why I brought up the mortgage issue previously, is because what alternative do you have? The problem is you do have alternatives. It's just not that easy to see, right? You do have alternatives, and it's really in your mind. It's in your thinking. So if you come to crypto with this idea, I'm going to buy low, sell high, and you might not even be saying that necessarily. Another shibboleth, investment. It's not a fucking investment. It's gambling and it's theft. So if you come to crypto with that mindset, on a spiritual plane, that's the way the universe is going to treat you. It's going to treat you as somebody who's desperate for that gain, right? And in a way, you are desperate. You're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I think the challenge for these generations is to be able to see the system and see through the system and see through their own conditioning and indoctrination and brainwashing even. And I'm not having a go at you guys, right? In a way, it's about the system, how fucked up the system is. The system of fiat currency led us to this, along with a whole heap of other things. But it's basically Scamville. Everywhere is Scamville. Even if you look at other markets like the gold and silver market, the stock market, it's all hypothecated and it's all a scam. Basically, it's all about stealing off the next sucker. You know, in Texas Hold'em poker, they have this thing, right? They say, if you don't know who the patsy is at the table, then you're the patsy, right? And what crypto is doing is that it's like the dot-com bubble, but on repeat every 4 years. So it coincides with the halvening of Bitcoin, but I think they just use that as a tool for pumping the markets. So they get out their tether machines when the halvening occurs and they start pumping, right? Now, the dot-com bubble, once that exploded, all the companies that were associated with that, the scammy, crappy companies, they went bankrupt and they disappeared. With cryptocurrency, that doesn't happen. The cryptocurrency still hangs around and still seeking fresh money, fresh liquidity. That's what the pumping is about every 4 years. It's about seeking the fresh liquidity, seeking that patsy. So the longer that you stay in crypto, the more savvy that you get. You see the lows and you see the highs. And if you don't, if you really buy into this hodl trope, you're brainwashed. You're brainwashed by the Bitcoin cult, the BTC cult of hodl. But you become like the smart players at the table. And the patsies are the innocent people that come along with their liquidity and dump it into some crappy token crypto that they know nothing about, and they lose their money. You know who the patsy really is? The patsy is grandma with her pension fund. It's your parents with their pension fund. They come to sit at the table and they get sucked dry. And I tell you, the ETF is exactly that. The ETF, BlackRock ETF, has a target of the honeypot of your grandparents, your parents' superannuation funds, or in the United States, your 401ks. That's the honeypot, and it is theft. That's what the BlackRock ETF represents. So that's my video, pretty harsh now. And I will say that there's going to be a silver lining to this video, and it's coming up in the next one. So if you got riled, if you got triggered by what I said, then I've done my job and I've done it very well. Ciao for now.